With millions of followers, he is known for his ferocious sermons and his steadfast support for Israel. For many years, Pastor John Hagee has been a prominent figure in the evangelical Christian community, but behind the pulpit and his public persona like a shadow, rumors of disagreement and conjecture have followed him. What realities has this charismatic preacher, who is 84 years old, withheld from his global audience after years of denial and silence? What secrets lurk beneath the surface of his life? Pastor John Hagee has finally come forward to address long-running rumors, doubts, and questions. What he reveals is not just a confession, it's a revelation that could change. Are you prepared to discover the reality about Pastor John Hagee? For years, there were rumors that he was the man of God he claimed to be. Was there more to the story? Supporters defended him as a devout servant of the Lord who had dedicated his life to sharing the gospel, while critics pointed to his controversial statements, extravagant lifestyle, and political connections as evidence of his hypocrisy. In a stunning turn of events, Hagee sat down for an exclusive interview with a major news outlet. The interview took place in a quiet room at his mega church, Cornerstone Church in San Antonio, and the interviewer asked the question that had been on everyone's mind. For a moment it appeared as though he might deflect, as he had done so many times before, but then he leaned forward and began speaking, saying, "There are things I've done in my life that I'm not proud of," adding, "I've made decisions and spoken words, I've uttered words that I now realize were incorrect." Pastor Hagee asked his congregation, "What is the one thing you've never told them after all these years?" "For years, I've tried to justify my mistakes, but it's time to admit them." To thoroughly understand this moment, though, one must go back to the beginning. He revealed something shocking because of what he said in his genuine voice. John Hagee was born in 1940 in Baytown, Texas, into a devout Christian family. His father, William Ball Hogg, was a pastor, and his mother, V.O.D. Sukomi, was a homemaker who taught him to love the Bible. Hagee felt called to ministry at an early age, and by the time he was a teenager, he was already preaching at local churches, but his journey to success was not without challenges. Hagee attended Trinity University in San Antonio in the 1960s and earned a degree in English history. He then went on to the University of North Texas to earn a master's degree in educational administration. During this time, he married his first wife, Martha Downing, and the two of them had 2 children. However, their marriage was troubled, and they divorced in 1975, a decision that would later spark controversy. Hagee's big break came in 1975 when he founded Cornerstone Church in San Antonio. Due to his dynamic preaching style and ability to relate to people on a personal level, the small congregation quickly grew into a megachurch. Hagee also began broadcasting his sermons on television, reaching millions of viewers nationwide through 1,900 advertisements. Hagee was a prominent figure in the evangelical movement who was known for making bold statements. Whether he was talking about pop culture, world affairs, or American politics, Hagee knew how to get attention. His audacious, unrepentant, and often contentious remarks resonated, but his impact went beyond the U.S. border through ministries of John Hagee. More than 200 nations from Africa, Asia, Europe, and South America heard his teachings. His message was one of hope, faith, and a steadfast dedication to Israel. It doesn't matter where you're from, what language you speak, or what you've done, I truly think that the gospel is for everyone. Both God's love and his message are universal. His unwavering position has garnered him both praise and condemnation. In 2006, his support for Israel became a defining component of his ministry. He is viewed by some as a contemporary prophet who is bringing biblical promises of Israel's restoration to fruition. Hagee created Christians United for Israel Sway, which has since expanded to become one of the biggest pro-Israel organizations in the world with over 10 million members, but others contend that his involvement in political affairs goes too far. Hagee claims that supporting Israel was a divine calling rather than merely a human conviction. Israel plays a crucial role, and it is our duty as Christians to support it. Over the years, I've been called many things, and he even laughed in an interview, but I've never been called apathetic about Israel, not because it's normal but because God requires it. Naturally, my name is Alan, and I'm not a loud hailer preacher, or Hagee, for that matter. Over the years, his candid views have stirred up controversy on a wide range of topics, from politics and LGBT+ rights to end-times predictions and the place of Christianity in America. Despite his steadfast support for Israel, some detractors have charged him with making anti-Semitic statements. When then-President John McCain publicly rejected Hagee's endorsement in 2008, a video surfaced showing the pastor making controversial remarks about the Catholic Church, forcing Hagee into damage control mode. Hagee admitted in a 2010 interview that he had made mistakes and that he was not perfect, but he had always tried to grow as a person and a pastor. Despite this, Hagee continued to return to the political arena. He gave Donald Trump his whole support when the 2016 presidential election came around, giving the invocation at the Republican National Convention on the grounds that he thought Trump's business experience made him the best candidate for the job. Of course, not everyone agreed, with some questioning his close relationships with certain politicians. Despite the controversies, he said, "I've never been afraid to speak my mind, but I've always tried to do so in a way that's consistent with my faith." His ministry continues to grow in influence, his books sell out, and his sermons reach millions of people worldwide. However, as his profile rises, so do the questions about his motivations. Is he primarily a preacher, or does he also play a role as a political figure? The sermons and spotlight moments distort a portion of John Hagee's life, which many people are unaware of. The conflicts that took place behind closed doors in the early 2000s brought one of the darkest. Hagee, who was renowned for his unshakable at the time, Hagee was leading Cornerstone Church, a congregation of 20,000 people in San Antonio, Texas, and managing his global television ministry. He was a powerhouse of faith, standing firm in his beliefs, but behind the scenes, he was a husband trying to keep his composure while watching the love of his life fight for her. He recalled that he had to be strong for his family, his congregation, and himself. "It taught me that no matter how strong you think you are, you need faith, you need prayer, and you need the support of those around you." Fortunately, Diana recovered, but the storm left a lasting impression on Hagee's life and ministry. A renewed faith. Hagee had always talked about faith during trying circumstances, but he had spent years living it as personally as possible. If John Hagee had learnt anything, it was that faith can move mountains, but it doesn't mean the climb won't be cruel for more than 60 years. Diana fought cancer, and Hagee balanced his roles as a preacher, leader, and husband while attempting to keep his dread at bay. Being a loving husband and father while managing a worldwide ministry has always been difficult, but John Hagee's marriage to Diana has been the cornerstone of a family that has expanded to include 5 children and numerous grandchildren, each of whom has forged their own unique path. Hagee never sugarcoats the fact that his unwavering focus on his work often meant that family came second. He acknowledged that he hasn't always been there for his family the way he should have been because he has always been so focused on his ministry, but he is working to make up for it. His children have now succeeded in their own right despite the difficulties of balancing work and family. While his daughter Tish Hagee Tucker has succeeded as a speaker and author, inspiring others with her voice, his son Matthew Hagee has assumed a leadership role as the senior pastor of Cornerstone Church, carrying on the family's spiritual legacy. However, Hagee is quick to note that his children aren't just following in his footsteps, they're paving their own paths. He said that every one of his children has discovered their own calling and is contributing in their own unique way, saying, "I'm proud of all my children." John Hagee Ministries has been working in Africa for over a decade, drilling wells for clean water, sponsoring medical missions, and educating thousands of people who would not otherwise have access to basic essentials. This is one of the most profound examples of his humanitarian work. Hagee was driven to leave the pulpit and start a humanitarian force because he believed that faith should be more than simply words, it should inspire action. "I was inspired by the people's unwavering faith and sheer willpower, which reminded me that no matter how difficult life gets, there is always hope." John Hagee Ministries has funded innumerable projects all over the world, focusing on everything from building schools and hospitals to providing disaster relief in times of crisis. He has been doing just that, from building schools for children in Kenya to delivering medical supplies to hospitals in Nigeria. However, if you ask Hagee about his accolades, he will brush them off like dust on a church pew. His ministry has worked tirelessly to improve improv communities, and his dedication to Jewish communities around the world has earned him widespread recognition. In 2019, the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews awarded him the Humanitarian of the Year award for his efforts to help those in need. I've preached the gospel all my life, but despite his strong presence behind the pulpit, there's something I've never discussed that has been on my heart for a while, and I believe it's time to share it with the world. In a rare, unedited interview with a major news channel, 84-year-old Pastor John Hagee stated that making a difference is more important than getting accolades. If we can help even one person, then it's all worth it. He has struggled with uncertainty throughout his career. There have been times when I've questioned everything he said and wondered if I was truly making a difference or if I was doing what God had called me to do. For years he carried the weight of those doubts in silence, never letting them show. Vulnerability isn't exactly encouraged in the world of televangelism, but behind closed doors. Even one of the most influential pastors in America struggled with the very faith he preached. His pro-Al stance has long been a cornerstone of his ministry, but Hagee revealed that it was more than just a theological position, it was personal. The turning point came in the 1970s while traveling to Israel. Perhaps the most unexpected revelation came when Hagee revealed how he has frequently felt like an outsider within the evangelical community, saying, "I've never really fit in with the traditional evangelical crowd. I've always been a bit of a maverick, a bit of a rebel, and that's made me a target for criticism, but I've never let that stop me from doing what I believe is right." Whether it was his outspoken support for Israel, his fiery sermons, or his unrepentant stance on political issues, Hagee recalled, "I felt this overwhelming sense of peace. His plans for the future are as ambitious as ever, and he is doubling down on technology by using social media, live streaming and podcasts to reach a global audience." He explained that social media, streaming and podcasts are the tools of the future and that we're going to use them to spread the gospel like never before. At 84, most people would be considering retirement or settling into a quiet life of reflection, but John Hagee said, "I'm not done yet. There is still a lot of work to be done, and as long as God gives me the strength keep going." Has demonstrated that when he puts his mind to something, nothing, not criticism, age, or even time, can stop him. Hagee isn't just interested in following trends, he wants to reach as many people as possible with more than 8. Hagee thinks that technology is the key to spreading his message to all 5 billion people worldwide. His ministry has already embraced live streaming and online sermons, but he is going one step further. Plans are underway to introduce interactive digital experiences, a new podcast series, and increased social media outreach to reach younger audiences. However, technology is only one aspect of the strategy, and Hagee understands that the next generation will determine the church's future. Hagee said, "I've been blessed to have a long and fruitful ministry, but I know that my time is limited, so I'm focused on mentoring and equipping the next generation of pastors and leaders. They're the future of the church, and I want to make sure they're ready." Through the Jai Ministries Leadership Academy, he is personally investing in young pastors, providing them with direction, resources, and opportunities to help him achieve his goal of raising up 100 new leaders who will spread the gospel even farther than he has.